Maya didn't know that the resignation letter trembling in her hands would change everything. She didn't know that the Alpha King had been watching her for months, waiting for this exact moment. And she certainly didn't know that walking into his office to quit would seal her fate as his mate forever. The clock on her desk read 11:43 p.m., and Maya Chen was still here, still working, still invisible. She stared at the resignation letter she typed and retyped 17 times, each version more desperate than the last. 2 years of 18-hour days, 2 years of handling impossible schedules and diplomatic crises for the most powerful businessman in the city. And what did she have to show for it? A studio apartment she barely saw, take-out containers growing mold in her refrigerator, and the growing certainty that she was nothing more than an expensive piece of office equipment. Tonight had been the final straw. Ambassador Cornelius Blackthorne had arrived for his meeting with her employer, dragging mud from his designer boots across her freshly cleaned reception area. When Maya had politely offered to take his coat, he'd looked right through her as if she were invisible. "Where is your master's real assistant?" he'd sneered, his accent dripping with old-world arrogance. "Surely someone of Constantine Thorne's standing doesn't rely on—" His pale eyes had raked over her small frame with undisguised contempt. This! Maya had stood there in her crisp white blouse and modest black skirt, holding his expensive coat, watching him dismiss her existence. And Constantine, Mr. Thorne, had simply watched from his office doorway, watched and said nothing. That silence had cut deeper than any insult. Now she smoothed the resignation letter one last time, her hands shaking with exhaustion and suppressed rage. 26 years old, and she felt ancient. When had she become so small? When had she started accepting that invisible was the best she could hope for? Never again. Maya stood on legs that felt like water, clutching the letter to her chest. The executive floor was tomb quiet, lit only by the city lights filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. Constantine's office door stood open, warm light spilling across the marble hallway. He was still working, of course. The man never seemed to sleep. She found him behind his massive mahogany desk, dark hair falling across his forehead as he studied a contract. Even exhausted and furious, Maya couldn't deny the man was devastating. 6 feet 4 inches of controlled power in a perfectly tailored suit, with golden eyes that seemed to see straight through people's souls. She'd been half in love with him since her first day, which only made tonight's humiliation worse. "Mr. Thorne?" Her voice came out smaller than intended. He looked up, and something flickered across his features. Surprise? Relief? "Maya, it's late." "I know." She stepped into the office, her heels clicking on polished wood. "I needed to speak with you." Constantine leaned back in his chair, giving her his full attention for the first time in months. The weight of his gaze made something flutter in her chest, but she pushed the feeling down. Not any more. She wouldn't let herself hope. "About the Blackthorne meeting?" His voice was rough silk, the kind that made her think of whiskey and dark promises. "I apologize for his behaviour." Maya blinked. An apology was the last thing she'd expected. You noticed?" "I notice everything about you, Maya." The words were quiet, intense, and completely bewildering. "Is that what this is about?" She placed the letter on his desk with hands that trembled despite her determination. "Effective immediately. I quit." Constantine's golden eyes dropped to the letter, then back to her face. Without breaking eye contact, he reached across the desk and tore the paper cleanly in half. "Request denied." Maya stared at the torn pieces of her carefully crafted resignation. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." He stood slowly, moving around the desk with the fluid grace that had always reminded her of a predator. "You don't get to quit, Maya. Not now. Not ever. You can't just. That's not how employment works." Heat flooded her cheeks as 2 years of frustration finally found their voice. "You can't keep me here!" "Can't I?" He stopped just close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. This close, she could smell his cologne, cedar and something wild that made her pulse race. "Tell me why you want to leave." "Because I'm tired of being treated like furniture. Because I'm tired of working myself into the ground for a man who doesn't even see me." The words poured out before she could stop them. "Because tonight you watched that horrible man tear me apart, and you said nothing, nothing." Something dangerous flashed in Constantine's eyes. "You think I didn't see you?" "I know you didn't!" Maya's voice cracked with exhaustion and pain. "I've been here 2 years, Mr. Thorne. 2 years of giving you everything I have, and I'm still just the girl who answers your phones and brings you coffee. I don't exist to you." Constantine stepped closer, close enough that Maya could see gold flecks in his amber eyes. "You want to know what I see when I look at you, Maya Chen?" She couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Something in his voice had changed, become rougher, more intimate. "I see the woman who remembers every detail of every meeting, who anticipates problems before they happen, who works 16-hour days without complaint." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I see the woman who makes my coffee exactly the way I like it, even though I never told you how, who stays late to make sure everything is perfect, who handles diplomatic nightmares with more grace than ambassadors twice your age." Maya's lips parted, but no words came. "I see the woman who's been holding my entire world together while I've been too much of a coward to tell her." Constantine's hand rose as if he meant to touch her face, then dropped. "I see you, Maya. I've always seen you." The air between them crackled with something Maya didn't understand. Her skin felt too tight, like something was trying to break free from inside her chest. "Then why didn't you defend me tonight?" "Because I was afraid if I started talking I wouldn't stop." His smile was bitter, self-deprecating. "Afraid I'd tell Blackthorne exactly what you mean to me and ruin everything." "What I mean to you." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Constantine's golden eyes searched her face with an intensity that made her knees weak. "Everything, Maya. You mean everything." Before she could process what was happening, he was reaching for his desk phone. "Cancel all my meetings for the next 2 weeks," he said, without looking away from her face. "Something important has come up." Maya stared at him, heart pounding. "Mr. Thorne, what are you doing?" "Since you're so eager to leave," he said, hanging up the phone and moving back toward her, "you'll work directly with me for the next 2 weeks. The Supernatural Summit requires someone I can trust completely." Supernatural Summit. The words felt strange on her tongue. Constantine's smile was sharp, predatory. "Welcome to the real world, Maya Chen. I hope you're ready." The days that followed were a whirlwind of impossible preparations and revelations that left Maya questioning everything she thought she knew about her employer. Constantine Thorne wasn't just a powerful businessman, he was something else entirely. Maya discovered this 3 days into her new assignment when a 7-foot-tall man with silver eyes and fangs bowed to Constantine in the conference room. Actually bowed, like Constantine was royalty. "Your Majesty," the vampire, because what else could he be with those fangs, murmured with genuine deference. "The Vampire Council sends its regards for the upcoming summit." Maya nearly dropped her tablet. "Majesty." Constantine's hand found the small of her back, steady and warm. "Maya, meet Councillor Dmitri Volkov. Dmitri, my personal liaison, Maya Chen." The vampire's silver gaze fixed on her with predatory interest. "How intriguing. I wasn't aware you'd taken a human into your confidence, Your Majesty." "Ms. Chen has my complete trust," Constantine said, and something in his voice made the temperature in the room drop several degrees. "She speaks with my authority in all summit matters." Maya stared between them, her mind racing. Majesty, Vampire Council, Summit. What exactly had she stumbled into? The meeting continued with discussions of territorial disputes and ancient treaties that made absolutely no sense. When Dmitri finally left, after another bow that made Maya's head spin, she turned to Constantine with wide eyes. "Okay, what was that about? And why did he call you Your Majesty?" Constantine was quiet for a long moment, studying her face with those golden eyes that seemed to see straight through her soul. "What do you think it was about?" "I think," Maya said slowly, "that you're not exactly what you appear to be." Very diplomatic, his smile was sharp-edged. "Are you frightened?" Maya considered this seriously. She should be terrified. Normal people didn't have vampires bowing to them in conference rooms. Normal people didn't have titles like Your Majesty thrown around casually. But looking at Constantine, really looking at him, she realized the signs had always been there. The way people deferred to him with more than just professional respect. The way his presence could fill a room and make powerful men step back. The way he moved like liquid danger in expensive suits. "No," she said finally. "I'm curious." Something flickered in Constantine's eyes. Relief? Admiration? Curious is good. Curious will keep you alive at the summit. Constantine. His name felt strange on her tongue, intimate in a way that made her pulse flutter. "What are you?" "The question," he said, moving closer, "is what are you willing to accept?" Before Maya could answer, Constantine's assistant knocked on the conference room door. "Your Majesty, the werewolf delegation has arrived." Werewolves, of course. The next few hours passed in a blur of supernatural politics that Maya somehow found herself navigating with increasing confidence. Representatives from wolf packs, vampire covens, fae courts, and witch circles all treated Constantine with the same careful respect they might show an ancient king, which, Maya was beginning to suspect, he might actually be. "You're handling this remarkably well," Constantine murmured during a brief break between meetings. They were alone in his office, and Maya was reorganizing the summit schedule on her tablet with hands that had finally stopped shaking. "I'm adaptable," she said without looking up. "It's why you hired me, remember?" "It's one of the reasons." His voice was closer than expected, and Maya glanced up to find him leaning against his desk, watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. "You're not what I expected when I first interviewed you." Maya set down her tablet. "What did you expect?" "Someone who would last 6 months before the pressure broke them." Constantine's golden eyes were unreadable. Someone who would ask fewer questions and demand fewer answers. Someone who wouldn't matter. The last words hung in the air between them like a confession. "And instead you got me," Maya said softly. "Instead I got you." He pushed away from the desk, moving toward her with that predatory grace that made her breath catch. Maya Chen, who notices everything, who asks for nothing, who works herself into exhaustion for people who don't deserve her loyalty. "Is that what you think I do?" Constantine stopped just close enough that she could smell that wild scent that always clung to him. Cedar and moonlight and something dangerous that made her pulse race. "I think you give everything you have to people who take it for granted. I think you believe you're invisible when you're the most vital person in any room. I think you've spent so long being underestimated that you've started underestimating yourself." Maya's throat felt tight. "Constantine." "When the summit begins tomorrow," he continued, as if she hadn't spoken, "there will be creatures there who are older than countries, more powerful than armies. They will try to intimidate you, dismiss you, use you as a weakness against me." His hand rose to cup her cheek, thumb brushing across her skin with devastating gentleness. "I need you to remember something." Maya couldn't breathe. His touch sent warmth shooting through her entire body, settling somewhere behind her sternum, like a second heartbeat. "What?" "You belong at my side. You belong in that room. You belong anywhere you choose to be." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Before Maya could respond, Constantine's phone rang. He stepped back with obvious reluctance, and Maya immediately missed his warmth. "Thorn," he answered, his professional mask sliding back into place. But his eyes never left her face. Maya touched her cheek where his hand had been, skin still tingling from his touch. Something was happening between them, something that went beyond employer and employee, beyond the professional relationship they'd maintained for 2 years. Something that made her feel like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to either fly or fall. Maya. Constantine had hung up the phone and was watching her again with that unreadable expression. The Fae delegation wants to meet with you specifically before tomorrow's opening session. Me? Why? Because, Constantine said slowly, word is spreading that the Alpha King has chosen a human liaison for the summit. They want to understand what makes you special enough to earn my trust. Alpha King. The title hit Maya like a physical blow. You're the Alpha King. Constantine's smile was sharp and wild and absolutely devastating. Among other things, are you ready for this, Maya Chen? Maya looked at the man she'd worked beside for 2 years, seeing him clearly for the first time, the Alpha King, the most powerful supernatural leader in the realm, and he was asking if she was ready to stand beside him as his equal. I don't know, she admitted, but I want to find out. Good. Constantine moved toward the door, then paused. Maya, tomorrow when we walk into that summit, you walk beside me, not behind me, beside me, as my partner. Partner. The word sent a thrill through Maya's chest that had nothing to do with professional advancement and everything to do with the way Constantine looked at her like she was precious beyond measure. Why me? She asked. Why trust me with this? Constantine's golden eyes held hers for a long moment. Because you see everything and ask for nothing. Because you handle diplomatic nightmares with more grace than creatures who've been alive for centuries. Because you make me better at being the man I want to be. He paused at the doorway. And because, Maya Chen, you were always meant to stand beside a king. He left her alone in his office, pulse racing and mind spinning with the enormity of what was coming. Tomorrow she would walk into a room full of supernatural beings as the personal liaison to the Alpha King himself. Tomorrow she would discover just how deep the rabbit hole went. Tomorrow, Maya suspected, everything would change forever. And for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of change. She was ready for it. The grand ballroom of the Celestial Hotel had been transformed into something from a fairy tale nightmare. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows over gathered supernatural beings that made Maya's skin crawl with primitive fear. Vampires in designer suits spoke in low voices to fey nobles whose beauty was so sharp it hurt to look at directly. Werewolf pack leaders moved through the crowd with barely contained predatory grace, while witches clustered near the windows, their power humming in the air like electricity before a storm. Maya stood at Constantine's side in a midnight blue dress he'd insisted on buying for her, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. Every supernatural sense in the room seemed focused on her, cataloguing her humanity like a weakness. Remember, Constantine murmured against her ear, his breath warm on her neck, you belong here. Maya nodded, though her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her portfolio. As his personal liaison, she was expected to facilitate discussions between the most powerful supernatural beings in existence. No pressure at all. The first few hours passed in a blur of introductions and careful political manoeuvring. Maya found herself surprised by how naturally the diplomatic protocols came to her. She remembered names, tracked alliances, and even successfully diffused a potential argument between rival vampire covens. Constantine watched her work with something that looked like pride, and Maya began to relax. That was when Lady Seraphina Blackthorne made her entrance. The Fey noble swept into the ballroom like a winter storm, silver hair flowing behind her and ice-blue eyes scanning the crowd with predatory interest. Maya recognized her immediately from the briefing files, one of the most powerful members of the Winter Court and notorious for her cruelty. "Your Majesty," Lady Seraphina purred as she approached Constantine, her voice like poisoned honey. "What a lovely gathering you've arranged." "Lady Seraphina." Constantine's tone was carefully neutral. "I trust your journey was pleasant?" "Oh, quite." The Fae's pale eyes fixed on Maya with a laser focus, "though I confess myself curious about your choice of companion for such an important event." Maya felt the temperature around them drop several degrees. Other supernatural beings began to drift closer, sensing drama. "Miss Chen serves as my personal liaison," Constantine said smoothly. "She has my complete confidence." "How fascinating!" Lady Seraphina circled Maya like a shark scenting blood. "Such an interesting scent you carry, my dear. So complex." Maya's blood went cold. She could feel something terrible about to happen, but couldn't understand what. "Half-blood," Lady Seraphina announced, her voice carrying clearly across the ballroom. "How very interesting that the Alpha King employs such creatures in positions of trust." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Conversation stopped. Every supernatural being in the room turned to stare at her with new interest. Half-blood. The term hung in the air like an accusation. "I don't know what you're talking about," Maya whispered, but even as she spoke, pieces began clicking into place. Her unusually sharp senses, her ability to read people's emotions, the way she'd adapted so quickly to supernatural politics, the strange warmth she felt around Constantine. "Oh, my sweet child." Lady Seraphina's smile was razor-sharp. "Did you not know? Your mother's little secret, hidden away in the human world. Half werewolf, unless I miss my guess, though clearly the wolf never awakened. How tragic." Maya's world tilted. Half werewolf. The mother who died when Maya was 5, taking all her secrets with her. The father who'd raised her alone, never speaking of the past. The dreams she'd had of running through forests on 4 legs that she'd dismissed as childhood fantasies. "That explains so much," Lady Seraphina continued with obvious delight. "The Alpha King's fascination with his little pet. Tell me, Your Majesty, does she even know what she is, or have you been playing with a broken toy?" The cruelty in her voice snapped something inside Maya. Broken, pet, toy. 2 years of being invisible, of being dismissed, of believing she was worthless came flooding back. "Excuse me," Maya managed, her voice barely steady. "I need some air." She turned toward the ballroom exit, desperate to escape the stares and whispers that had erupted around her. Half-blood, broken wolf, Constantine's pet. The words chased her as she pushed through the crowd, fighting back tears of humiliation. She made it to an empty corridor before the panic attack hit. Her breathing came in sharp gasps as she pressed her back against the marble wall, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor. Half werewolf. It explained everything and nothing. Why she'd never felt quite human. Why she'd always felt like she was missing something essential. But broken. Lady Seraphina was right. She was broken. A werewolf who couldn't shift, couldn't access her wolf, couldn't be what she was meant to be. "Well, well, what do we have here?" Maya looked up to see 3 men in expensive suits approaching her. Werewolves, she realized with growing alarm. She could smell it on them now, that wild scent that reminded her of Constantine, but darker, more aggressive. "The Alpha King's little half-breed," the leader sneered. He was tall and brutal-looking, with pale scars across his throat. "Marcus told us about you. Pathetic little thing, isn't she?" "Abomination," another agreed, circling her like she was prey. "Polluting our kind with human weakness. No wonder you never shifted. You're not worthy of the wolf." Maya scrambled to her feet, looking for escape routes. The corridor stretched empty in both directions, and the 3 wolves were blocking her path back to the ballroom. "Please," she whispered, "I'll leave. I don't want any trouble." "Too late for that," the leader growled, his eyes flashing gold with barely contained wolf. "You've been trouble since the moment you caught the Alpha King's attention. Time someone taught you your place." He lunged forward, and Maya threw her hands up instinctively to protect herself. She braced for impact, for pain, for the violence she could see in their eyes. Instead, the corridor filled with a power so intense it made her bones ache. Constantine stood at the end of the hallway, like vengeance incarnate. His golden eyes had gone completely wolf, blazing with fury that made the air itself vibrate. The three werewolves dropped to their knees immediately, whimpering as his dominance crashed over them like a tidal wave. "Touch her!" Constantine's voice was barely recognizable, more growl than words, "and your pack answers to me personally." The leader of the three wolves was shaking, his face pressed to the marble floor. "Your Majesty, we meant no disrespect. You were only leaving." Constantine's power filled the corridor until Maya could barely breathe. "Now, before I decide that your pack needs new leadership." The three wolves fled without another word, their terror leaving the scent of fear thick in the air. Maya sagged against the wall, adrenaline and shock making her legs weak. Constantine was beside her instantly, his hands gentle on her face as he checked for injuries. "Are you hurt?" His voice was still rough with barely controlled wolf, but infinitely tender. "Maya, talk to me. Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," she whispered, then laughed shakily. I'm not fine. I'm apparently half werewolf and broken and everyone knows it, but I'm not physically hurt." Constantine's hands stilled on her face. "You're not broken." "I can't shift, Constantine. I'm a werewolf who can't access her wolf. If that's not broken, what is?" "You're not broken," he repeated, his golden eyes fierce with conviction. "You're exactly what I've been waiting for." Before Maya could ask what he meant, warmth exploded between them. Not just the usual flutter she felt around Constantine, but something deeper, more primal. It started in her chest and spread through her entire body like golden fire, and for the first time in her life, Maya felt complete. "What is that?" she gasped, her hands fisting in Constantine's jacket as the sensation overwhelmed her. "That," Constantine said softly, his forehead resting against hers, "is recognition. The bond that connects mates." Mates. The word hit Maya like lightning. "But I'm broken. I'm half human. I can't even shift." "You're not broken," Constantine said for the third time, and there was something in his voice that made her believe him. "You're powerful in ways you don't understand yet. Your human side doesn't make you weak, Maya. It makes you unique, special, perfect." "I don't understand." Constantine's smile was soft and devastating and full of promises. "You will. I'll help you understand everything. But first, I need you to know something." "What?" "You're not alone anymore." His thumbs brushed across her cheekbones, wiping away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "You're mine, Maya Chen, and I protect what's mine." The golden warmth between them pulsed stronger, and Maya felt something inside her chest unfurl like wings. For the first time since Lady Seraphina's revelation, she didn't feel broken. She felt found. "Constantine," she whispered. "Yes. I think I'm ready to learn what I am." His smile could have powered the city. "Then let's go make some people very uncomfortable." When they walked back into the ballroom together, Constantine's hand possessively on her lower back, Maya held her head high. Let them stare. Let them whisper about the half-blood who'd caught the Alpha King's attention. She was exactly where she belonged. The second night of the summit arrived with all the fanfare of an execution. Maya stood before her full-length mirror in the hotel suite Constantine had insisted she take, adjusting the deep emerald gown that made her skin glow and her dark hair shine like silk. Tonight was the formal gala, the most important social event of the supernatural political calendar, where alliances were forged and enemies revealed themselves. She looked like she belonged among supernatural royalty. The illusion was perfect. Too bad it was exactly that, an illusion. Word of her heritage had spread through the summit like wildfire. Half-blood, broken wolf, the Alpha King's pet project. Maya had heard the whispers, felt the stares, endured the barely concealed contempt of creatures who considered her an abomination. Even the hotel staff treated her differently now, their professional courtesy edged with the kind of pity reserved for the terminally ill. "You look beautiful," Constantine said from the doorway, magnificent in a black tuxedo that made him look like a dark prince. "Are you ready?" Maya turned to face him, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "As ready as I can be for my public humiliation, I suppose." Constantine's golden eyes flashed with something dangerous. "No one will humiliate you tonight, I give you my word." "Constantine." Maya moved toward him, her heels silent on the plush carpet. "You can't protect me from what I am. Half blood, half human, half everything and whole nothing. Lady Seraphina was right, I'm broken." "Stop." Constantine's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "I told you yesterday, and I'll keep telling you until you believe it. You are not broken." Before Maya could argue, a knock sounded at the door. Constantine's expression shifted to something predatory as he opened it to reveal one of the hotel staff. "Your Majesty? Lady Seraphina has requested that Miss Chen join her for pre-dinner cocktails. She's gathered quite a crowd in the Azure Lounge." Maya's blood went cold. Lady Seraphina gathering a crowd never ended well for her targets. "I should go. Get it over with." "Absolutely not." Constantine's hand found hers, warm and steady. "We go together, or not at all." "Constantine, she's clearly planning something. If I face it alone—" "You will never face anything alone again." His voice was quiet steel. "Do you understand me? Never again." The Azure Lounge was packed with the supernatural elite when they arrived. Lady Seraphina held court near the windows, her silver hair gleaming under crystal chandeliers as she regaled her audience with what sounded like a particularly amusing story. The crowd included several pack leaders, vampire lords, and fey nobles, all the people whose opinions could make or break political alliances. Maya's steps faltered when she realized they were all staring at her. "Ah, there she is!" Lady Seraphina's voice rang out across the lounge. "Our little mystery guest. Come, my dear, we were just discussing you." Maya felt every eye in the room focus on her like a spotlight. Constantine's hand pressed against her lower back, steady and warm, but she could feel his tension radiating through the simple touch. "Lady Seraphina," Maya managed, inclining her head politely. "How lovely to see you again." "Oh, the pleasure is entirely mine." The Fey noble's smile was all sharp edges. "I was just telling everyone about our fascinating discovery yesterday, a half-blood serving as personal liaison to the Alpha King himself. So unconventional." A vampire lord with silver hair and ancient eyes leaned forward with interest. "Half-blood? How intriguing! I wasn't aware such creatures were still being born." "Oh, yes," Lady Seraphina continued with obvious delight. "Half-werewolf, to be precise, though sadly defective, unable to shift from what I understand. Quite tragic, really." The whispers started immediately. Maya could hear fragments: broken, defective, pathetic. How embarrassing for the Alpha King. Each word was like a physical blow, and she felt herself shrinking under the weight of their judgment. "Tell me, dear," Lady Seraphina addressed Maya directly, "how does it feel to know you'll never be whole? Never experience the joy of your wolf? Never be a true member of any pack?" The cruelty in her voice was breathtaking. Maya opened her mouth to respond, to defend herself somehow, but no words came. What could she say? Everything Lady Seraphina said was true. "She doesn't belong here," another voice chimed in, Lord Marcus Ravencrest, a pack leader from the Northern Territories. "Half-breeds serve in kitchens, not at the right hand of kings." "Perhaps," suggested a witch with calculating eyes, "the Alpha King's judgment has become compromised. It happens to the best of rulers when they allow sentiment to cloud their decisions." The implications hung heavy in the air. They weren't just attacking Maya, they were questioning Constantine's fitness to rule. Maya felt sick with the realization that her presence here was damaging his reputation among his peers. "I should go," she whispered, turning toward Constantine. "They're right. I don't belong here." Stay exactly where you are. Constantine's voice cut through the murmur of conversation like a blade. Every supernatural being in the lounge fell silent. He stepped forward, and Maya felt his power roll through the room like thunder. Ancient vampires straightened. Pack leaders lowered their eyes. Even Lady Seraphina took an involuntary step backward. "You question my choice of companion?" Constantine's voice was silk over steel, carrying easily to every corner of the lounge. "You question my judgment?" "Your Majesty," Lord Marcus began carefully, "we only meant—" "You meant to humiliate someone under my direct protection." Constantine's golden eyes blazed as they swept the gathered crowd. "You meant to question the decisions of your Alpha King based on prejudice and ignorance." Lady Seraphina lifted her chin defiantly. "We simply find it curious that you would elevate a broken half-blood to such an important position. Surely there were more suitable candidates." The temperature in the room plummeted. Constantine's power pressed against everyone present, forcing them to acknowledge his dominance. When he spoke, his voice carried the absolute authority of someone who had ruled for centuries. "She is under my direct protection. She speaks with my voice. She carries my absolute trust." His words rang through the lounge with finality. More than that. Constantine descended from the elevated seating area and walked directly to Maya. Every supernatural being in the room watched with held breath as he stopped in front of her and extended his hand. "She is my mate." His declaration echoed through the stunned silence. "Anyone who dishonours her dishonours me." Maya stared at his outstretched hand, heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Mate. He'd said it publicly, before the most powerful supernatural beings in existence. There would be no taking it back, no pretending it was anything less than what it was. "Constantine," she whispered, "you don't have to—" "I'm not doing this because I have to." His golden eyes held hers with devastating intensity. "I'm doing this because you are precious beyond measure, and I'm done letting anyone suggest otherwise." With trembling fingers, Maya placed her hand in his. The moment their skin touched, golden warmth exploded between them, visible to everyone in the room as tiny sparks of light that danced across their joined hands. The crowd gasped. Mate bonds were sacred, undeniable, and the physical manifestation of their connection was proof that couldn't be questioned or dismissed. Constantine drew Maya close, and before the entire assembly of supernatural elite, cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. It was gentle and fierce and claiming all at once. Maya felt her entire world shift as the mate bond flared between them, marking her as his equal, his chosen one, his queen. When they broke apart, her lips were tingling and her heart was racing, and she felt more alive than she ever had in her life. "Let me be absolutely clear," Constantine said, his voice carrying to every corner of the lounge, while his arms remained around Maya. "Maya Chen is my mate, my equal, and my chosen queen. She will be treated with the respect due to her position, or those responsible will answer to me personally." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, Lord Marcus bowed his head. "Your Majesty, my lady, please accept my apologies for any disrespect." Others followed suit, vampires inclining their heads, fey nobles offering elegant curtsies, witches murmuring formal apologies. Even Lady Seraphina managed a stiff bow, though her ice-blue eyes promised this wasn't over. Maya stood in Constantine's arms, surrounded by the acknowledgement of supernatural royalty, and felt something she'd never experienced before. She felt like she belonged. "Are you all right?" Constantine murmured against her ear as the crowd began to disperse, conversations resuming in hushed, excited tones. Maya looked up at him, her mate, her king, the man who'd just claimed her before the world, and smiled. "I think I'm more than all right. I think I'm home." His answering smile was brilliant enough to light the entire city. "Yes, you are. You're exactly where you belong." And for the first time in her life, Maya believed it completely. The weeks that followed the public claiming were a strange whirlwind of impossible expectations and deadly realities that Maya had never imagined. Being the acknowledged mate of the Alpha King, it turned out, was nothing like the fairy tales. Maya stared at the threatening letter that had arrived with her morning coffee, the third one this week. The elegant script promised creative ways to remove her from Constantine's side, each more gruesome than the last. She'd stopped showing them to him after the second one resulted in a vampire lord mysteriously disappearing for a week, returning pale and shaken with new respect for boundaries. "You're brooding again." Constantine's voice came from the doorway of their shared penthouse office, warm with affection and edged with concern. "What's troubling you?" Maya quickly slipped the letter into her desk drawer. "Just reviewing the guest list for the council meeting." Constantine's golden eyes narrowed. He moved across the room with that liquid grace that still made her pulse race, even after weeks of being claimed as his mate. "Maya, what aren't you telling me?" "Nothing." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue, but how could she explain? How could she tell him that every day brought new evidence that she was the weakness his enemies had been looking for? "You forget," Constantine said softly, settling on the edge of her desk, "that I can smell lies. It's one of the perks of being a wolf." Maya's breath caught. Even now, the casual mentions of his supernatural nature made her heart race with the reminder of everything she wasn't. "Constantine, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Always. Am I making you vulnerable?" The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "By being here, by being your mate, am I putting you in danger?" Constantine went very still. "What brought this on?" "Look at me." Maya stood abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked the city. "I'm human, Constantine, half human at best, and I can't even access my wolf. I can't fight beside you, can't protect myself, can't be the partner you need. I'm a liability." "Maya, no, let me finish." She turned to face him, her heart breaking at the pain that flashed across his features. "Yesterday, Lord Blackwood suggested that your judgment was compromised. Lady Seraphina is gathering support among the Fey courts to question your fitness to rule. Your own pack elders are demanding a formal meeting to discuss the mate situation." Constantine's expression grew dangerous. "They said what? Don't you see? I'm destroying everything you've built. I'm giving your enemies exactly what they need to challenge your authority." Maya's voice cracked with the weight of her fears. "I don't know how to be what you need. I'm not royal blood. I'm not even fully supernatural. I'm just me." The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Then Constantine stood, moving toward her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Just you," he repeated, his voice rough with emotion. "Maya Chen, do you have any idea what just you means to me?" Before Maya could answer, the distinctive whine of a blade cutting through air made her instincts scream. Constantine's eyes flashed gold as he spun, catching the silver knife meant for Maya's heart with his bare hand. Blood dripped from his palm as he crushed the weapon. "Assassin!" he growled, his power flooding the room. "Where?" The answer came as their office window exploded inward in a shower of glass. 3 figures in black dropped through the opening, professional killers moving with supernatural speed and precision. Maya's blood went cold as she recognized the insignia on their gear, Marcus Ravencrest's pack. The Northern Territories had sent assassins. "Get down!" Constantine roared, but Maya was already moving. 2 years as his assistant had taught her to think 3 steps ahead, and she'd spotted the secondary threat, another assassin emerging from the elevator, crossbow aimed at Constantine's back. "Behind you!" Maya threw herself forward, catching the bolt meant for Constantine's spine with her shoulder. Fire exploded through her body as the silver-tipped projectile tore through muscle and bone. Constantine's roar of fury shook the entire building. His wolf erupted in a display of power that sent the assassins flying like rag dolls. In seconds, 3 of the 4 attackers lay motionless, necks snapped with surgical precision. The fourth dangled from Constantine's grip, feet kicking futilely. "Who sent you?" Constantine's voice was barely recognizable, more animal than man. The true Pax," the assassin gasped. "The pure bloodlines. She's poison, weakening you." Constantine's grip tightened, and Maya heard the wet crack of cartilage giving way. The assassin went limp. "Constantine!" Maya's voice was weak, blood soaking through her blouse as shock began setting in. "Constantine, I'm okay. It's just my shoulder." He was beside her instantly, his hands gentle despite the violence that still radiated from him. "Silver bolt," he said grimly, examining the wound. "Poisoned, meant to kill quickly. But I'm not dead." Maya tried to smile, though the pain was making her light-headed. "Hybrid vigor?" "Something like that." Constantine's smile was strained as he carefully lifted her. "We need to get you to Dr. Winters immediately. Silver poisoning can be fatal to wolves." "I'm not really a wolf, though. Maybe—" "You're my wolf," Constantine said fiercely. "That's all that matters." The emergency medical treatment passed in a blur of pain and supernatural healing techniques that Maya's hybrid nature responded to better than anyone expected. Dr. Winters, the Pack's physician, declared it a miracle that she'd survived silver poisoning at all. "Most half-bloods wouldn't have lasted 10 minutes, he told Constantine privately, though Maya's enhanced hearing picked up every word. Her human side seems to neutralize supernatural toxins. Fascinating. When they were finally alone in Constantine's private chambers, Maya curled against his side on the massive bed, her shoulder wrapped in bandages that smelled of herbs and healing magic. "I'm sorry," she whispered into the quiet darkness. "For what?" Constantine's arm tightened around her protectively. "For bringing this on you, for giving them a target, for being exactly the weakness they said I was." Constantine was quiet for so long that Maya thought he'd fallen asleep. Then he shifted, turning to face her in the dim light. "Maya, do you know what happened the moment you threw yourself in front of that crossbow?" She shook her head. Every doubt I had about our bond disappeared. Every question about whether fate had chosen correctly, whether you were strong enough, whether you belonged at my side." His golden eyes were intense in the darkness. "You didn't hesitate. You didn't think about your own safety. You saw a threat to your mate and you acted. Anyone would have—" "No." Constantine's voice was firm. "Anyone wouldn't have. That was courage, Maya. That was the kind of selfless bravery that queens are made of." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "But I'm still human, still broken." "You're not broken," Constantine said, for what felt like the 100th time. "You're exactly what I need, what we need. Even if your pack elders disagree, even if it costs you your throne." Constantine's smile was fierce and wild and absolutely devastating. "Maya, tomorrow morning the pack elders are coming here to demand I choose between you and my position as Alpha King." Maya's heart stopped. "What?" "They've given me an ultimatum. Reject the mate bond and choose a suitable wolf bride, or step down and let someone more capable lead." "Oh, God!" Maya struggled to sit up despite the pain in her shoulder. "Constantine, you can't choose me over your responsibility to your people. I won't let you—" Constantine silenced her with a kiss that tasted like promise and forever. "Too late," he murmured against her lips. "I already told them my answer." "What did you say?" "I told them," Constantine said, his eyes burning with conviction, "that a pack that cannot accept my mate is no pack of mine. We build our own pack. Maya, starting with us." Maya stared at him in shock. "You told the elders you'd give up everything, for me. I told them I'd choose love over politics every time." Constantine's smile was soft and certain. "I told them that the woman who took silver for me, who stands beside me in every crisis, who sees solutions where others see problems, is exactly the queen our people need. And if they don't accept that, then we'll prove them wrong." Constantine pulled her close, careful of her injured shoulder. Together, the way it's always been meant to be. Maya felt something settle in her chest, a certainty that had been missing since the first day someone called her broken. You really believe that? That we can build something better? I believe in us, Constantine said simply. I believe in what we could accomplish together. I believe that sometimes the best families are the ones you choose, not the ones you're born into. Outside their windows, Maya could hear the city settling into sleep. Tomorrow would bring the pack elders and their demands. Tomorrow would bring challenges and choices and battles yet to be fought. But tonight she was exactly where she belonged, in the arms of a man who saw her worth when she couldn't see it herself, ready to build a future neither of them could have imagined alone. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. I love you too, Constantine replied, his voice warm with absolute certainty. My queen, my mate, my everything. And for the first time since this all began, Maya believed that might actually be enough. 3 months later, Maya stood before a mirror in a gown of midnight blue, surrounded by friends she'd never expected to have, and preparing for a wedding she'd never dared to dream of. Hold still, Lydia grumbled, adjusting the delicate silver circlet that would mark Maya as Queen Luna. The young witch had been one of their first allies, a half-blood like Maya who'd found acceptance in their growing pack of misfits and outcasts. This thing is heavier than it looks. Maya smiled, watching in the mirror as her chosen family bustled around her. Dr. Winters's daughter Eleanor, a vampire-fae hybrid, wove flowers into Maya's dark hair. Marcus, not the northern pack leader, but a werewolf who'd been exiled for refusing to reject his human mate, stood guard at the door with a smile that hadn't left his face since Constantine had offered him a place in their new pack. I can't believe this is really happening, Maya murmured, touching the silver pendant at her throat, Constantine's first gift to her as his acknowledged mate. 6 months ago I was just his assistant. 6 months ago you were already his mate, Elena corrected gently. You just hadn't figured it out yet. A soft knock interrupted them, and Maya's heart skipped as Constantine's voice came through the door. Maya, there's someone here who wants to see you. You're not supposed to see the bride before the ceremony, Lydia called out, but she was already moving to unlock the door. It's not me, Constantine replied with warmth in his voice. It's someone else entirely. The door opened to reveal a woman Maya had never seen before, tall and elegant, with dark hair streaked with silver and eyes that were achingly familiar. Constantine stood behind her, his expression gentle and hopeful. Maya, the woman said, her voice soft with wonder. My beautiful girl, you look so much like your mother. Maya's world tilted. I'm sorry, I think there's been a mistake. Your mother was my sister, the woman continued, stepping forward with tears in her eyes. Isabella Chen, I'm your aunt, Rachel. Your father told me you died in the same accident that took Bella. I've been searching for you for 20 years. The room went silent. Maya stared at this stranger who claimed to be family, whose eyes held the same unusual green flecks as her own. Aunt Rachel? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. But my father said all my mother's family was gone. He said there was no one left. Your father was protecting you. Rachel's smile was sad but understanding. Our family, your mother's family, we're what humans call witches, powerful ones. Your father feared that if our kind knew about you, they'd try to claim you, use your mixed heritage for their own purposes. Maya sank into a chair, overwhelmed. Witches, so I'm not just half werewolf, I'm half witch, half werewolf, raised by humans. Rachel's smile grew brighter. You're what we call a bridge, someone who can walk between all worlds. It's incredibly rare and incredibly powerful. Constantine moved to Maya's side, his hand settling on her shoulder with warm reassurance. I asked Rachel to come because I thought you should know your full heritage before we married, before you became Queen Luna to our pack. Our pack? Maya looked around the room at the faces of the people who'd become her family. "We really did it, didn't we? We built something new." "Better than new," Marcus said from the doorway. "We built something that works, something that includes everyone who needs a home." Maya stood, taking in the magnitude of what they'd accomplished. In 3 months they'd gathered werewolves rejected by traditional packs, vampires cast out by ancient covens, fae who didn't fit court politics, witches who practiced love magic instead of power magic, and humans brave enough to walk among supernatural beings as equals. "The Moonbridge Pack," Constantine said softly, "named for their queen who bridges all worlds." "You did this for me." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I did this for us," Constantine corrected, pulling her close. "For everyone who's ever been told they don't belong anywhere." A gentle chime sounded, Eleanor's cue that the ceremony was about to begin. As Maya's chosen family filed out to take their places, Rachel lingered. "Your mother would be so proud," she said, pressing a small silver charm into Maya's palm. "This was hers, something to carry into your new life." Maya looked down at the charm. A tiny wolf howling at a crescent moon with stars scattered around it. "It's beautiful." "It's a protection charm," Rachel explained, "for wolves who run in moonlight and witches who call down stars. Perfect for someone who's both." When Maya walked down the aisle 20 minutes later, her arm linked with Dr. Winters, the father figure who'd stepped in to give her away, she felt complete for the first time in her life. The ceremony was held in the pack's new territory, a sprawling compound outside the city where misfits had become family. Constantine waited for her at an altar decorated with flowers from Elena's garden and blessed by Lydia's magic. He looked magnificent in a black suit that emphasized his powerful frame, his golden eyes locked on her face with such love that Maya felt breathless. "Dearly beloved," Dr. Winters began, his voice carrying easily across the gathered crowd, "we come together today not just to witness a marriage, but the founding of something unprecedented. A pack built on love instead of bloodlines, acceptance instead of tradition." Maya barely heard the traditional vows. Her attention was focused entirely on Constantine's face, on the way he looked at her like she was precious beyond measure, like she was exactly what he'd been searching for his entire life. "Do you, Constantine Thorne, take Maya Chen as your mate, your queen, and your partner in all things?" Dr. Winters asked. "I do," Constantine said, his voice rough with emotion. "For all my days, in all my forms, through all our battles and all our victories, she is my heart made manifest." "And do you, Maya Chen, take Constantine Thorne as your mate, your king, and your partner in all things?" Maya looked into Constantine's golden eyes and saw their entire future reflected there. Adventures and challenges, quiet moments and grand gestures, a love that would grow stronger with each passing day. "I do," she said, her voice clear and certain. "For all my days, in all my forms, through all our battles and all our victories, he is my home made real." When Constantine kissed her as his wife and queen, the mate bond flared between them so brightly that every supernatural being present could see it, golden light that wrapped around them like blessing, like promise, like magic itself. The celebration that followed was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. Traditional werewolf pack songs blended with witch blessings and vampire toasts. Children who'd never had homes before now played in gardens tended by former enemies who'd become friends. "Any regrets?" Constantine murmured against her ear as they swayed together during their first dance as husband and wife. Maya looked around at their gathered family, biological and chosen, and felt her heart overflow with gratitude. "About marrying you? Never. About quitting my job as your assistant?" Constantine's laugh was rich and warm. "Well, technically you never did quit. I never accepted your resignation, remember?" "True," Maya grinned up at him, "though I think my job description has changed somewhat." "Queen Luna of the Moonbridge Pack does have a nice ring to it," Constantine agreed, though you'll always be the woman who keeps me organized and makes the perfect coffee." "Speaking of which," Maya said, her eyes sparkling with mischief, "I need to tell you something. I've been experimenting with witch magic. I think I can make coffee that actually improves your mood." "Dangerous territory," Constantine warned, spinning her around the dance floor. "I might never let you leave the kitchen." "Try it and I'll show you what this half-witch, half-wolf queen can really do." Constantine's eyes flashed gold with appreciation and love. "Promise?" As the night wore on and their pack family celebrated around them, Maya marvelled at the journey that had brought her here. 6 months ago she'd been invisible, overworked, and convinced she was nothing special. Tonight she was surrounded by people who loved her, married to a man who saw her worth when she couldn't see it herself, and leading a pack built on the radical idea that everyone deserved to belong somewhere. "Where are you?" Constantine asked softly, noticing her thoughtful expression. "Right here," Maya said, pulling him closer, "exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Good," Constantine murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple, "because I plan to keep you here forever." "Forever sounds perfect," Maya whispered back, and meant it completely. Later, as they stood on the balcony of their new home, looking out over the territory where misfits had become family and outcasts had found their place, Maya thought about the resignation letter that had started it all. "I'm glad you tore up that letter," she said softly. Constantine's arms tightened around her from behind. "I would have torn up 1,000 letters, because you were always meant to be here, Maya Thorne, with me, home." And as the moon rose over their chosen family and their hard-won happiness, Maya knew that some things were indeed worth fighting for. Love was worth fighting for. Belonging was worth fighting for. Home was worth fighting for. They had built something beautiful together, something lasting, something that would welcome every lost soul who needed a place to belong. They had built forever. Where are you listening from tonight? I love hearing from fellow romance lovers in the comments below. If you'd like to support me and help more people discover these stories, subscribing is free and means the world to me.